Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. You get to watch me dress. So, totally forgot all this stuff. Anyways, it is Wednesday, Self-Care Wednesday, and yeah, I really have I don't know what it is with this week, but I really don't know what to talk about today either. And I know we kind of had that problem yesterday, so I guess we'll just wing it again. I love this bracelet, but right now I can't wear it because it keeps coming off. So I have to figure out how to keep that on because I really don't want to lose it. I love that necklace. So anyways, I know older siblings going down the stairs while she's putting the show on, so be careful, please. Anyway, well, I know, it's just habit. I want to wear it because I love it. Hopefully it'll stay clasped this time. But anyways, alright, so I didn't know what else to do, so I thought, hey, let's do the ISIS Oracle cards. Not the terrorist group, alright? We're talking the goddess. The goddess. So, let's see. These are pretty cards too. Very Egyptian, very, all the things. It's so funny because, my dad watches the show, the Stargate SG-1, which is from the early aughts, and I think the late 90s, early aughts. And they always take all these gods and everything and turn them horrible, except for Thor. Thor's this tiny little alien-looking guy, like this big. But I was just thinking about that because a lot of them are like the Egyptians, and it's like, why are you so mean? But I get it. You need a villain. So you come up with something that people really don't understand. But I love Isis, and she's a goddess that I respect and appreciate. So, goddess I respect and appreciate. That's not giving me a card. Come on. Come on, you can do it. I just wanted one for Self-Care Wednesday. This one is funny because this keeps coming up as I'm shuffling. So let's just start with this one. It's really pretty with the pyramid. So, Pyramid of Light and Psychic Protection. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be here like, okay, this isn't for me. Please stay. Please stay. All right. Because you never know what is going to come up, and it may be something that resonates with you. And I'll find that with a lot of people. They'll be like, oh no, it's bad. Well, I only work from a good place. So if this message is coming, maybe you prayed for it, maybe you asked for it, maybe you tried to manifest, some kind of answer. So, ta-da. But anyways, sorry, I am on fire right now. I need to find something I can, whoops, excuse me one moment. Yeah, I'm a hot mess today. I need some serious self-care. But, oh, sorry. Hot flash. Hot flash. And it's like 76% humidity right now. So, come on, it's California. Why is it so humid? Anyways, as a being of darker energies may at times seek to interfere with your spiritual progress. There is nothing to fear and only more awareness of the power and protection of divine love to experience. The Pyramid of Light confirms that energies have been causing interference with your path, and it is now time for that interference to cease completely through loving divine power. I feel like that's also validation. But I think a lot of people go through that, right? There's on healing journeys, sometimes it feels like we're just trying to hold ourselves back, and that could be your darker energy out of fear. It could be, if for those of us that believe in a darker side, light and dark, sometimes they don't want you to get better. The baddies, I call them the baddies. They don't want you to get better because, you can't be manipulated and controlled that way, and the really bad ones just want you to feel bad about yourself. So like if you lash out at somebody or you get angry, I did this morning, but that was about personal space. But still, then you end up feeling guilty, you end up feeling bad, and and then it's a cycle that just keeps going and going and going because, that's what they like. They like to keep you, pinned under their thumb. So, don't let that happen. Don't let them have that control. Take back your power. Good morning, Muddy. And good morning, older sibling. I'm not sure if I said good morning. I was just more worried about her getting down the stairs. But yeah, so, don't let them take your power. I know it's hard, and I'm so sorry, guys, and I know it can be incredibly difficult, but it is about taking your power back. In fact, I have a note card somewhere around here that says, take your power back. And so, these are those times. If it feels like something has been interfering in your progress, take your power back. All right. It could even be a human. It could be a human who's being puppeted by something, or just out of their own jealousy that you're moving in a different direction than, their own healing, or, just you're not the same person that could be manipulated anymore. And that may make them mad. So there's just a ton of different things that it could mean, that it could stand for. So, take your power back. Again, take your power back, and don't let other people get in your way. All right. But don't run over them either. What I mean, don't let them get in your way. If you are trying to heal, hey, that's what it is. It's healing, right? And a pyramid is a very powerful symbol, but just love and light. It's the pyramid of light, and it is confirming that you need to get rid of that interference. So, and sometimes it's just as simple as just ignoring them, not listening to them. Someone may be yelling, it's like, okay, and then just walk away. You don't need to always engage. And I think that's where a lot of times we just kind of like upend ourselves, because then if you're not in a good place and they're not in a good place, and everybody's going to start fighting and nothing is going to get done. It's just going to end up sad. Abundance in many forms is increasing in flow to you. Continue your good work of building channels through which abundance can be delivered to you. Freely share your talents, love, wisdom, and self, and enjoy the abundance responsively flowing to you in many forms over and over again. So there you go. Faith, right? We talked about that. Trusting and believing equals faith. Have faith. That way you can't say, I trust and believe, I trust and believe. Just say, I have faith. All right. And like I said, faith is just a word. It ties into a lot of religious things, but it doesn't have to for you if you do not believe that. It just means believing and trusting the moment and the situation. So let's see what else we got. Okay, this one just came up. Ancient power mysteries. This is interesting. That's interesting. The oracle guides you to honor the power of your voice, whether through spoken or sung words, or through what you write, speak about, or stand for symbolically. You have a potentially very powerful healing voice, and you are guided to recognize the responsibility that you have for what you can proclaim through your voice. Well, there you go. If you had a plan and there's something you wanted to do, I think it's time to do it now. Just, hop to. And then this one, scales of balance. Scales of balance. Balancing, give and take, directing and flowing, play and solitude are always to heal the relationship between the inner masculine and feminine energies. Connection with the body is the most powerful form of healing for the feminine energy, as it holds the secrets to divine feminine wisdom. So dance, sing, and play. And this is a good card to kind of go into what I was just thinking about. I was actually thinking yesterday about doing a show about it, but then I wasn't sure because it involves real people. And then, you never want to step on toes, but it's really just discussing a movie. Older sibling and I went to see Michael yesterday, the movie Michael, about Michael Jackson. And I know there's more to it. But, and even older sibling brought that up. She's like, I know there's more to it, because she had met the family. She repped one of the kids at one point when she was still in the entertainment industry. So, she knew a lot, and I don't want to break confidences there, but I'm just going to talk about the movie. So, but a lot of it, when you watch it, you just realize why he ended up down the road he went down, why he ended up with yes people, why he ended up with people that wouldn't say no, because his father, and I mean, this is documented in the movie. This has been documented, just through the decades when the kids got older enough and they were no longer under his thumb, that he was just a very hard, rough, spooky kind of guy. You know, I mean, he was very abusive, and very manipulative. And everything, when you really look at it, seems to have been about him. You know, he'll sit there and say, well, I made you who I am. I did this. I did that. But without their talent, he couldn't have done squat. And that's the truth. Without their talent, you know, they would have still been living in Gary, Indiana. Which, by the way, that song got stuck in my head for a while, from the Music Man. It's like, seriously? But, sing about Gary, Indiana. But anyways, so there you go. You know, the Music Man, right? I mean, Michael Jackson, born in Gary, Indiana. But yeah, when it popped on the screen yesterday, it immediately, in like Baby Opie, Baby Ron Howard's voice, just started popping in my head. It's like, oh man. So anyways, they just, you know, and it's not to take away, because, you know, there was a lot of stuff that he did do for them, but then he forgot that if they don't have talent, there's nothing that, you know, there's nothing he could do. They'd still be in Gary, and nobody would know who the Jacksons are, or the Jackson 5, or Michael Jackson. But actually, no. I think eventually people would have understood who Michael Jackson was, because, you know, I have to tell you, he was like a musical prodigy. You know, we have geniuses in all different kinds of sciences, and, you know, different parts and walks of life. I mean, right, like Sheldon Cooper, which is not a real person. Obviously, it's a character on TV, but you know, there are people out there who are that smart, you know, like all those four guys. And Michael Jackson was that kind of genius, you know. And I read some of these cards and I just think, you know, sorry, Muddy. No, she's singing Gary, Indiana. Indiana. Sorry. I know, I'm sorry. But I think, I guess where I want to go with this is that when we, you know, their talents were nurtured to a degree. Now, some will argue that his living in that dream world to escape his father could have been what added to the musical genius. I don't think so. I really think that eventually he probably would have become a music producer. Sorry, older sibling. They're both singing it now. But I eventually think he would have been a music producer if he wasn't already. I don't know. But kind of like Quincy Jones or Berry Gordy and all those guys. And, you know, and just started doing his own thing with other, you know, mentoring other people. I mean, he was 50 when he died. Just shy of his 51st birthday. Okay. And it's been, God, 17 years since he passed. I remember the only reason I remember, I can't remember the exact day anymore, but I remember the year because that was the first time we were going to Disney World, and I was so excited. And we were taking a red eye out, so I was at work, and older sibling called me, and she, you know, she just tells me, well, Michael Jackson's dead. It's like, and she's not the radio host, because I guess there was a radio host named Michael Jackson, but. And first of all, I have no idea who the musical host is, and you're not funny. That's not funny. And she's like, I'm serious. And like, your whole world stops, right? Because it's like, wait, wasn't Michael Jackson supposed to live forever? You know? And and then you find out how he passed, and it's just, you know, it's just all so sad. And you wonder if he had a kinder father, if he would have still been alive. You know, he hadn't found the yes people. He had found people that says, you know, this is dangerous. You may not want to do this. Okay. You know, but when he went out on his own, he wasn't under the thumb. And really it was a thumb of oppression. I mean, you know, the movie is produced by a lot of his siblings. I don't know if it's all of them, but a lot of them. Okay. So you know that they had a big hand in what that story was telling. And obviously for the sake of movie purposes, you know, you do have to, you know, you probably put things in there for dramatic effect, but I really don't think they needed to. I mean, if they didn't put anything in there for dramatic effect, it would not surprise me. Because, you know, I've known people who knew their dad. And just very intimidating, just not the kindest person. You know, and it's almost like all he ever saw in his children were dollar signs. And I hate to speak ill of the dead. I do. You know, and then the mother probably just didn't know what to do. She probably felt like, well, I need to be stronger. But he was a very domineering man. So then you sit there and think, well, why didn't the other kids have problems? I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they did. But Michael Jackson was a musical prodigy. So the story in here is, be kind. It's as simple as that. And if you've grown up in one of those households where, you know, the one parent is this or one parent is that, older siblings, scary. You know, one person is this, one person is that, you know, like, and I don't want to say which parent, but when you have one that's dominant and one that's quiet, you know, you may feel like, you know, boy, I can't wait to get out of here. I'm going to make my own decisions. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to, you know, I'm going to just move as far away from this person as I can because, you know, they oppress me. And it took a lot of courage for him to push away from that. And if the characters in the story, I really don't want to give anything away, but I'm assuming that these people would be real because these are people you can look up, you know. But I would assume that, should they be real, that they were more of a father figure to him than his own father. His father, like I said, and people are going to say, well, that's just the impression it gives off, but it's not. There are a lot of people who will say that. He liked having money. He didn't want to work in a steel mill. And so he made his kids live his dream. And then he lived off of them. You know, and then he would just say, well, I'm their manager and I'm this and I'm that. And, you know, I take care of everything and I'm the one. And then he guilts them. I'm the one who made you. And it's like, without their talent, pal, you would not have had anything. It's like, yeah, okay. I mean, maybe he did teach them a lot of stuff. I mean, you do got to give credit where credit's due. Okay. But did you have to be so hard on them if they didn't feel like practicing anymore because you thought they weren't good enough at the gig? Did you have to beat them? No. Did you have to take a belt to one of them? They did. They showed them taking a belt to one of them in the movie, but they usually just don't take the belt to one. So, you know, older sibling and I were talking about that, and she made a very good point about that. And it's like, you know, so, but, you know, maybe the other ones were bigger and might fight back. So, but you know, but then you have this little kid who is just got this magical talent and just keeps escaping into a world because, you know, and stays there pretty much his entire life, escapes into this fantasy world. Because reality just, you know, he never learned really how to live in reality because in reality, his dad was always there. You know, no matter where, even when he had his own place, his dad was still in that reality. And I can see where that, you know, may have harmed him, may have been difficult for him. And you know, I was telling older sibling afterwards, I said, you know, for all the things I ever thought about Michael Jackson, because I do love I love his music. But I said, for all the things I thought about Michael Jackson, I said, this explains so much. And I don't think it's because they've been on a healing journey, but maybe it is. Because, you know, when you're not on a healing journey, you're just like, you know, you empathize, but then you're like, yeah, well, you know. But when you've gone through a healing journey, you know, like anybody who has, they see it. You can see it. It's so highlighted, and you're like, wow, you know what? And it's like, and then you become very grateful that you were able to find that. But, you know, I didn't have yes people around me. I had people who were willing to put me back in check. And I used to think, you know, I used to walk around saying, well, if he didn't have all those yes people and blah, 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 then, you know, he'd probably still be alive. And he probably would be. Maybe. Who knows? But at the same time, when you see this movie, and they even bring it up, you know, and this part I think was probably more scripted because so many people had said it. And maybe his father did say it to him. I don't know. But when you see the father just coming down on him all the time, you finally understand why he chose to surround himself with people who would just be kind to him. He was a very gentle-hearted person. You know, I have no doubt in my mind that all the scenes that they showed of him sitting with, you know, hospital patients, cancer patients, little kids, when he was in the burn center, you know, older sibling says, I don't think he was worried about the kids fighting back because he was a very husky, strong guy. Yeah, probably. I don't know. But, I mean, you would know. I know you met them in person, so, and knew them, so, you know. But, that's pretty cool, right? I'm like 1 degree from Michael Jackson. But, But no, never met him. Never met any of them. But but when you have such a domineering presence in your life, you finally understand why he decided to surround himself with nothing but yes people. And was it healthy for him in the end? No, it was not. But like I said, and this, this has nothing to do, like I said, with my healing journey. I'm just saying that having gone on this healing journey, when you look back at things with different eyes, and you're able to see them through healed eyes, and then you see how just what a lost soul this person is. But like I said, even when, going back to before I read Siblings Thing, even when he was in the burn center, they show him sitting with people. And I have no doubt in my mind that this is something he would have done, because he wasn't afforded that kindness by the strongest man in his life. And you could see that his siblings were very protective of him. I don't know if they ever resented his success, but if they did, it didn't seem outwardly so. They were just like, this is our little brother, not the baby brother. There were two after him. Remember, there was Randy Jackson and Janet Jackson. But this was the youngest of the original Jackson 5. And it's just kind of like, they were very protective of him. And, it was just, they may have rolled their eyes at some of the stuff he pulled, like his little zoo, but, I get it. These are your friends. They're, some people like Dr. Dolittle in a way. And I really don't know where I'm going with this, but I really wanted to talk about it because I think, as a person who never became a parent, who never had their own kids, my primary function in this world is as an aunt. But, and I love that. I take that to heart. 'Cause I love being a good aunt, sugar them up, send them home. But just kidding. They're all too old to be sugared up and send them home now. They all have their own things that they like to do. But I think if you are given that beautiful responsibility, if you are really, it's a gift. Okay. If you've been gifted this opportunity to be a parent, I think you should try to be the best one you can. Are kids going to misstep? Yeah. I talked about my own past and I'll be honest with you, at that time, I just was not mentally stable. I mean, I wasn't going to go out and kill anybody, but, I was not in control of me. And my trauma was just everywhere. It was just really bad. And I don't know if there was something that had happened in their father's life that made him the way he was, or he just got tired of being the breadwinner or whatever. But, the breadwinner, right? Because, we always talk about that too, just as kind of a little side adventure in this talk. How men always make this, well, I have to go out and make money and do this and do that. And it's like, you would have to do that even if you were single. But you wouldn't have someone at home making your dinner and cleaning your house. So, respect. A little bit of respect goes a long way. But, and that's more of that misogynistic thinking. Most men nowadays are just, like my dad's a total girl dad. But, like he'll get mad when people think, well, that they're girls. I can't do that. My dad's all, how do they know? So I don't know. It's like, oh, okay, wow, that is how you feel. And, but most men nowadays are just really kind of, but there are still those misogynistic men out there. Shame on you. And yes, I will say that out loud. Shame on you. There are things women's bodies can do that yours will never be able to do. Like push you out of them. It's like, just remember, every time a misogynistic man is mean to a woman, someone should remind him that his mother carried him in her womb for 9 to 10 months. But anyways, going back to the other thing. I think, and I'm not saying that women or that people who haven't had children were not gifted that. I'm just saying that if you are fortunate enough to have a child, it's a gift, and you should nurture that. And, if you're going to be angry or you're going to be mean, walk away, Oh yeah. Older sibling was like the actor that played him as a kid, but he was phenomenal. I mean, this kid's like, wow. I don't know what his name was, but damn. And the one that played him as an adult, older teenager adult was actually his nephew. Jermaine Jackson's son, Jafar, I think his name was, which is kind of ironic, right? I don't know if Jafar actually means something, and I mean no disrespect here, okay? But he was a character in a Disney movie, and it is no secret that Michael Jackson loved Disney, so it kind of feels like, in a way, too, that also comes kind of full circle for him. But I am sure he did his best to have people that were there for him, but I feel for him, even though it's, sibling said it'll be interesting to see where he goes. It will be. That kid was phenomenal, and if he was really doing all that singing, it's just like shit. But I mean, even his footwork, this is a kid who could be a total dancer. I mean, it was just like, wow. But oh my god, and he was so cute. But even baby Michael was so cute. But yeah, even his dad made a comment about his nose. And then next thing you know, he's had so many surgeries. And they kept showing the book Peter Pan. So it kind of makes you wonder, was he trying to look like the kid in the book? And again, I don't mean any disrespect from that. But when you start associating yourself with something, and you start associating, your life with someone who's free, who's not under oppression, and parental oppression. Okay, we'll put it that way. You just, sometimes you fall into that world, and then you just slowly become it. And I think that's what happened to him. It's just an opinion, and like I said, it's just talking about the movie. But when you see the progression of their relationship, the relationship he had with his father, it's just, and the guy that played him, I can't I forgot to look at the name. I think I know who it was, but, and he's a great actor. But damn, I personally think he nailed it. I mean, like I said, I don't know Joe Jackson, but this guy brought Mean to a new level. I think there have been villains on TV that were nicer than this guy. But, and I think a lot of it too is because, you're their parent. What is wrong with you? But, oh, that's true. Sibling says, I think that's because he just didn't want to grow up and remember his favorite word was magic. Yeah, and Peter Pan didn't have to grow up, right? And that was his favorite book growing up, was Peter Pan. And even as an adult, that's what he would read, was Peter Pan. And, it was just almost like his version of his Bible. It was like his Bible. This is how I want it to be. This is how I need it to be. I need to be free. And I don't know. I know I'm kind of stumbling over this, topic, but it just hurts. It hurts to see people in these kind of situations. It hurts to see them just so held down by people who should be, that was it. I was right. It was Coleman Domingo. I got the Domingo part right, but but yeah, great actor. And of course, Nia Long, God, I remember seeing her when I was a teenager, acting in teenager movies, and now she's playing the mom. But let's see. Let's look. So, Giuliano Valdi. It's either Giuliano or Juliano Valdi played young Michael. That kid was phenomenal. I mean, wow. Like magic feet. Oh my God, he's 12. It's just baby. Oh, anyways. So anyways, I know I've rambled. I know I've gone on. Yeah, really, older sibling said he brought evil into the role. He really did. I mean, every story needs a villain, and I think that's the hard part, is that the villain was the father. And it's not even exaggerated. This man was just, and it's sad. And I think that's what I spent a lot of time thinking about yesterday and focusing on, was just how grateful I am for the parents I had. Because I know there's kids out there who deal with this. who aren't even, their parents aren't even trying to make them famous. They're just like, they have to deal with that parent who probably has some kind of unhealed, untapped trauma, or just angry at life and takes it out on everybody else instead of trying to fix it themselves. So, or learning how to be, content or happy or improve their own situation, but instead throw all their hopes, dreams, and anger onto their children. Kids are just kids. You gotta let them be kids. And that's one thing about, Michael Jackson. He did not have a childhood. He did not. And so he was a big kid for the rest of his life. And again, I don't think that's a bad thing, except in the case where you have too many yes people. I mean, come on. Every one of us has a child in our heart. A child. We are, what am I trying to say? We are a child at heart. So, and, well, a lot of us are. Some of us aren't. But yeah, a lot of us are just, that child at heart. And we do our own thing. And we do our best. But, we still like to buy the toys or little Legos and all that stuff. So, you can't really take that from him. But I think there was a part of him that just, I think, really, really needed to be loved by his father. And I feel bad for him because he searched for it in every other male figure in his life, like Quincy Jones or Berry Gordy or a security guy, Bill, who had been with him since he was a kid. And really, that guy was like the father. And they show that. Michael never says to him, "Oh, you're like the father I wish I had." No, he's just this trusted friend. But you can see he protects him like it's his own child. And so, and it's sad. It's sad. But anyways, I rambled on long enough. I apologize for today's show, because not the show I had planned. I really had nothing planned. I do have one tomorrow. Okay, we're going to do the moon oracles tomorrow, because Saturday is going to be a big new moon. The new moons are the dark moons, but it's going to be a new supermoon, believe it or not. Yes, I did not know there was such a thing, but there is. So we're going to talk about the new supermoon in Taurus on Saturday. And, so if you're a person who likes to manifest or set your intentions, that is the moon to do it to. All right, because it will be waxing afterwards. It'll start waxing. So anyways, I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am sorry that it was a little all over the place today. I don't know how to articulate this, because I don't know how to relate to it, because I can't. But I left the theater just, kind of like, wow, what a talented guy, but also what a tortured life, and it hurts you in a way that you just wish you could fix it for him. But you can't. And, and I don't know. You wish you could, but you can't. And now he's gone. So I guess the best we can do is just know that his truth is out there now. And that in our own lives, and myself included, in our own lives, we just need to be better people. We just need to be better people. All right. So, or just be the best person we can be every day. And if you're falling short, don't make yourself feel bad about that. All right. We're not going to be 100% every day. We're going to have days where, we just lose our shit. Right now I'm going through perimenopause, and I'm just kind of like, my mood swings come so fast. It's just kind of like, they run over me and then hit whoever's, nearby. It's kind of like, whoa, wait a minute. You start feeling like a speed bump in your own life. But anyways, I think we just need to remember how to be kind. And like I said, if you're a parent, take a deep breath. If you're having some issues, get some therapy. And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I mean that in it will save your life kind of way. And it will save you the relationship with your child, because you don't want to lose those years and then only recapture them when they're older. You want to have that nice run all the way through your life and their life, depending on, most times we hope that the children outlive the parents, but that doesn't always happen. So, and that's sad. And I've known people where this has happened. So just make the best every day, because you never know how much time you have. You don't know how many days you are allowed to be on this earth. All right. Or how many, We don't know if our days are numbered or if they're plentiful. So, you know, I feel for him. I hope he is resting in peace. I'd like to think, a lot of people say, so older sibling and I are watching something yesterday, and they were talking, and it sounds like one of the places, it was just like haunted, you know, homes and stuff like that. And a lot of people say they feel his presence, and it's not scary. It's like helpful. So it's almost like, you know, almost like Phantom of Music or Phantom of the Opera, right? He is the true angel of music. And so, you know, we'll call him the saint of music, the saint of, you know, Michael Jackson, like the saint of music or the angel of music, because I can see how he would still be doing that, you know, for those who believe in the paranormal. And even if you don't, I really can see how that would be a thing, because he knows he died young, but I don't think that would stop him from wanting to mentor people and be there for people and just give back. You know, there was a lot of gratitude in his heart and a lot of kindness. And, you know, and he could have gone a whole different way. He could have grown up to be mean and horrible and just one of those musicians that was just awful. And I think, in a way, the people gave him what he needed. He needed to feel loved and adored, because he didn't get that from his father. He got it from everybody else. But, you know, I think he really wanted that from his father, but also he gave everybody himself. You know, he gave himself to everybody, and some people were not so kind about it, and other people were. So, okay. So again, I'll see everybody back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public under Shelley Marie Lucas. You can find me across the social media board. And thank you, Muddy and older sibling, for popping on, and I will see everybody tomorrow. Have a great day.